Hello, my Sparkle sisters. It's Diana. Happy January 31st and our first Sparkle. Oh my goodness, I know we had a little confusion on the time, and how many of y'all know whenever you start something new, you got to have a glitch. So we are so glad to have that out of the way. And this morning, as I was getting ready, I'll tell you something so funny. I was running around, I'm trying to find all these shoes. I don't know why I waited so long on that. But I have to tell you, a rain boot. I don't have a rain boot. So I asked Tom, did he have a rain boot? Seriously, if a spider comes out of this, I'm going to say a word that makes Jesus really sad. And I'm thinking we should maybe bedazzle this. What do you think? Don't you think Tom's today's his birthday? He's 66 today. And so I think we need to bedazzle his rain boot. So I got all kinds of shoes over here. I hope you're excited. We're going to be talking all about stepping out of your dream or out of the box that you've created with the way that you've been thinking and stepping into your dream life. For those that don't want to come and play, of course, we have some glitter. We have got all of our tools in our toolbox. So I'm going to be watching here on Facebook. I hope a lot of y'all are getting ready to join us. Just to tell you what this is all about, first of all, I just want to thank you so much for all of you all that have asked. The last time I did a Sparkle Lunch and Learn was 2020. And of course, we've had a few things that have happened. So it's been about 3.5 years, almost 4 years since the very last Sparkle. And just one of the things that happened is I've been working in my Mary Kay business on a thing called a legacy changer. And that's where I spotlight women who I feel like in their life, regardless of the title, that they are changing legacies. And I've been working on this all year long. And then I had lunch with a girlfriend of mine, Amber Westerman, and I'm going to get her on here. She doesn't know that. I'm like putting her on the spot. But she was one of my legacy changers that talked about her life and the way that she saw her life, and then the way her life ended up, and how much more powerful she is being an advocate for foster care, being a foster care mom. And then she was talking about her marriage, how her and her husband dance in the kitchen every morning with all the things that are going on, and just like her joy. And whenever I left House Blend here in Dixon and I was walking out to my car, it was truly the Holy Spirit laid on my heart is there are stories that need more than 5 lines, right? Because I just kind of asked some questions in Legacy Changer. And that's really when the dream was born again to start this. So really what we want to do is we're going to go through my book, Step Out of the Box. You don't have to buy it, right? I'm not on here to sell anything. But what my mission is, and that's what I was really trying to clear up for people is, I want to create a place where we can have lunch every week. And in most cases, I'm going to be interviewing some people. Like on Valentine's Day, my girlfriend Melissa Ledger has got a coaching and a whole website called Gumball Love. Like, why do they pick out these guys, right? Who are really just treat women kind of like gumballs. And, so whether you're single or you're a friend of a single, like that's going to be really good. I've got a whole list of women, and I would love any suggestions from y'all of people that would be fun to interview. And we're just going to spend the lunchtime together, and we're going to learn together. We're going to grow together. It's going to be very interactive. You're going to have challenges to kind of work on with pictures. And so we're excited. If you will, in Facebook, if you'll just type in where you're from, that would be great. And we're going to go ahead and get started with this today. And so I just want to tell you, whenever this was, I don't know, I love for things to be funny, but whenever I wrote this, it was just a season in my life that I went back to whenever I made a huge change from going full-time in the military to going to starting my own business with Mary Kay. And I know a lot of people on here are not in Mary Kay. So this is not a Mary Kay time. This is a time for women. But I will tell you, it was whenever I really came to this point. And I just put on here, have you ever woken up and realized the life that you're living today is not the life you envisioned in your little girl's dreams, right? How many of y'all? Raise your hand, right? So if you're at lunch, you're doing that. If you're driving down the road, don't do that, or else people will just think you're praising the Lord. Y'all know that there's a story about that that I talk about, that I was growing one time in my business, and I was just stuck, like so stuck. And there was a song, and it was called Ancient of Days. I'll probably tell it later on because it's one of my favorite stories. And I was driving from Shreveport down to Natchitoches, Louisiana to work with Vicki Casanovas, and I was like in the moment. How many of y'all have got a song like you just get in the moment? And I was driving and I had my hands up and praising the Lord, and I look up and I see some lights. And this young man, I throw open my door, which I would never do now. But at the time, like I threw open my door and I'm like, oh my gosh, I know I was speeding. I know exactly whenever this speed limit changed, but I was just praising the Lord. And you have to hear this song. If you could have seen this young man's face, I mean, it was truly, he was like, oh my gosh, I mean, she must be escaped from someplace, right? So he comes up, I'm like, listen to this. So he's listening, he's like, wow, that's really, really good song, ma'am. And I said, well, go ahead and give me a ticket. I know I was speeding. He said, well, I don't think I could ever tell my grandma that I gave somebody a ticket for praising the Lord too fast. But however, I need you to slow down so you don't go see the Lord today. And so the point of that is like, like whenever you're driving and all these things that you're doing, like you may think you're doing something, but those that are watching you, right? People are always watching you. You never know what they're thinking. So for y'all that are going along, I require a lot of affirmation, which is why this is a little hard for me because I'm just sitting here and I'm affirming myself. So I need y'all to be sending out some things. I'm gonna see if I can figure out how to do comments at the same time that I'm talking. So how many of y'all know I have ADD? So this will be like here and everywhere. Good. So, oh, here's some people. We got Mary Beth, Jamie and Wendy and Lois and Cheryl, and we got Boss Babes, and we've got Lisa and Barbara. Oh my gosh, Danica, Lisa, thank you all for being some of the first people on here. So here you are. So coming back to here, this says, how many of you all have envisioned a life that is nothing like your little girl's dreams? What started out as your dream life has now kind of become your nightmare. Maybe you started to think that you've exchanged the best years of your life for chasing income instead of impact and influence. And my question to you is, are you using your gifts and your talents and your abilities to build somebody's dream life other than yours? Can you even remember the last time you woke up full of energy and excitement and you're envisioning the life ahead as a treasure hunt? Or just barely getting up and saying, oh my gosh, good God, it's morning versus good morning, God, right? I swear that's why my husband smokes, because I do wake up like that. And so he has to get away from me. And so what my wish as we come together is that we stir your soul, that we reignite your dreams. We want you all living out your little girl dreams. And for some of you all, oh, your life didn't have little girl dreams. In fact, there's a lot of y'all that when we talk about little girl dreams, you're like, Diana, you don't understand. I barely survived my little girl time. And so for you all, my prayer is that we will uncover the dream that God had planted in your heart that life covered over. And that for maybe the first time in your life, you feel safe to dream and to share with your Sparkle family. This is a safe zone, right? There is no guilt. There is no shame that will be allowed here, right? Only hope and possibilities. I talk about in here that your dream life is where you're the queen and the princess and the CEO and the gold winner and the wife and the mom of the year and Wonder Woman all rolled into one. You were once bold and brave, and some people even called you bossy. I want to know who's been called bossy. My whole life I've been called bossy. I'm like, I'm not bossy. What am I? Right? What am I? Right? I'm a leader, right? Women, most people do not like a strong woman. You see it in everything. Like you see it in the news, you see it. Lord forbid a woman to be strong, right? And they're like, well, she's witchy. That's not the word they use, right? But no, we're just leaders. And so my wish for you is a life that energizes you and everybody around you. So what we're going to talk about during the season, and it's going to take us a while to get through this because we're just going to talk a little bit and then we're going to do more interviews. Today, it's really, I'm just going to kind of share my story with y'all and kind of go through chapter 1 in this book. But what we want to talk about is about equipping you on what tools you need in your toolbox to step out of the land of the lazy, get out of the pond of procrastination, swim your way out of the river of regret, move out of the maze of mediocrity, and excel in the land of excellence. So that's really where we are headed. What we're going to do is we're going to go into the darkest corners of your mind to clean out cluttered thoughts and kick out a confused self-image, which is what we're going to really talk about today. We want to make sure that we are erasing and replacing, right? Type that in, erase and replace. And that's where we're going to start today, erasing and replacing. How many of y'all have heard me say that before, right? We want to erase and replace any thought in that pretty head of yours that does not serve you or that is not true about you. Many of you all, a lot of my girlfriends are on here Y'all are going through some horrendous times, horrific. I mean, people have spoke some lies into you, and little by little, and conversation by conversation, and relationship by relationship. Guess what happened? You started to believe them, and then you woke up one day and you're like, "Oh my gosh, who am I? Where was that powerful me? Where was that? What happened to her?" It didn't happen overnight, right? What happened was, is little by little, your self-image changed, and what we want to be able to do is we want to get ready again to, you're going to need your hiking boots. So I got some hiking boots, right? Here we go. There we go. So y'all can take a picture of your hiking boot and you can post it in there. Mine, just so you know, has a zipper because it's not really a hiking boot because I don't like to sweat. So I don't hike, but don't those look really cute? So that is, you can want to hike, the road less traveled, right? How many of you all feel like that in your life right now, you are truly living the road less traveled? I know Mary Beth Hunley is, right? She just stepped away from her full-time job to pursue her Mary Kay business full-time, and then to also teach money management. This is the life that she always wanted to lead. And in fact, last week she said something to me that was so profound. And she said, you know, that CEO burnout, right? She was the CFO of a company. And she said that was real. And it has taken her almost 2 months to come out from under all that yuck. Is there anybody out there that wants to get rid of some yuck, right? It is time to hike out and be on the road less travel. We want you to have some house shoes right here. I got some little sparkly house shoes for cleaning and redecorating your thoughts. Okay, let us not forget our rain boot, right? Okay, let's vote, remember? So let's pray away any spiders because this was garage. I'm really nervous. I hate spiders. I don't mind snakes, but I hate spiders. Who else hates spiders? Okay. Or should we bedazzle this for Tom? So I need to find some bedazzle, right? So your rain boots, right? Why do we have rain boots? We want to battle life's storms, don't we? Yes, we want to do that. And of course, combat boots. Of course, got to do combat boots for all my military. Where's all my veterans? Where's all my active duty, right? Y'all, thank you for your service. I'm honored to serve alongside of you. And of course, we want to combat, we want to win those daily thoughts. Your tennis shoes right here. Don't you love these sparkly tennis shoes? Oh my gosh, right? So we love those. I'm not promoting anything. So it's just what it's in my closet and Tom's, I guess. And then we want to run away from regret. And finally, what we want to do is we want to step out of the land of lazy and we want to step into the land of excellence, right? So here's this. Aren't these the most beautiful shoes? You know why I have these? Because they're the most uncomfortable shoes I've ever put on in my life, but they look so good. So who is ready for that? If type in the shoe that you're most excited to really work through. So let me run through those because I think I left one out. So who's ready to hike the road less traveled? Who's ready to do that? Okay. How about wedges? I knew I forgot one, right? Wedges, where fear is holding you hostage. Who's ready to wedge out of that? So type in wedge, okay? How about some house shoes for cleaning up, cleaning out, and redecorating your thoughts? Who needs, right? Who needs to do a little bit of that, right? Who needs some rain boots, right? Who needs some rain boots, right? To live through the storms that are happening right now. Who needs to just go into daggone battle? Right? I just need to have a battle buddy, right? That's me. And all your sparkles doesn't need to battle, right? All of those thoughts. And who is ready to step into, right, their life of excellence. So here we go. I'm going to look on here. This is great. Oh my gosh, you got all these on here. So many. So we're ready. Ann says she's ready to wedge out of the yuck. Marcy says she's house shoes there. Danica, there's a lot of wedge in here. It's probably good thing I didn't forget that, right? So y'all keep those coming. So that is what these next couple of weeks probably will take us, I don't know, probably a couple months to get through all of this. So what I want to do is I want to talk to you, right? We got wedges. Oh my gosh, keep them coming. That's right. Hiking the road less travel, Tanya says. Okay, good. Now, your self-identity. Let's kind of turn the page a little bit and let's talk about self-identity. And this is something that as we go along, and I'll share more of my story as we go along, was the thing that hung me up the most in my relationship with the Lord, in my marriage. Tom and I have been married 40 years now, but we had some rocky times. My ability to be a healthy mom for our daughter Samantha, for me to go from the Air Force into being an entrepreneur, being a part of Mary Kay, the success and the things that came with that was self-identity. So to give you a little bit of the backstory. I am a military brat. My dad retired from the military. And so I we did not have money. In fact, I'm the first woman in my family to graduate high school. My dad was born in a tent. My sister and I, we're the only two. Our grandparents were sharecroppers in Wynne, Arkansas. So we do not come from money. And although my dad, whenever he joined the military, he got us out of poverty. But what he didn't realize and was not equipped to do was to get us out of the poverty mentality, right? Those terms that set you up for a lot of issues with money. You know, those old rich people, and they're going to lose their faith in their family, and they're awful, and they use people, and you know, like, we don't need money, we've got love. And you know, the church I grew up in was very legalistic, you know, and it was all of this. And I kept raising my hand as a little girl. Can you imagine me as a little girl? I'm like, but wait, money can't be bad, because, like, you know, like, everybody, you know, a lot of people had money, right? It's just, did money control them, right? Money, I kept going back to the verses. You know, I've never been one to let somebody tell me. So I'd say, it doesn't say money is the root of all evil. It says the love of money is the root of all evil. So obviously I didn't hang out there very long. I was not very welcomed. So really, I tied religion to a lot of negative things like that, because what happened to me was my little girl dreams. I have always known that I was going to live a life like this. I just never dreamed it would come working with women, because I did not like women at all, because I grew up on the wrong side of the bridge. Some of you all may understand what I'm talking about. Carrie and Stephanie, who are in Savannah, where I came from, they know what I'm talking about. But because we didn't have money, and because I wasn't in the in crowd, I moved there from Tucson, Arizona. My accent was crazy. And so all of a sudden, what happened to me was all of these labels. You're going to hear me talk about this, right? Labels. This is what people say about you. You're an outsider. You don't belong. You're dumb. You're, you know, all of those things. I couldn't see, really. I am just blind as a bat. And so my grades were really bad. So my teachers just told me that I was slow. And in reality, I'm really smart. I just couldn't see the dang board, right? But I didn't know that. And so what happens is along the way, right, you start out with this image of yourself, and then again, little by little, and term by term, I was in some really unhealthy relationships that made me I made some really bad decisions. And through that, again, then the guilt and the shame that came with that, then all of a sudden, like, I'm being weighed down, I'm weighed down. And then I get in the military and I do really good. I met Tom. He had on a pair of, many of y'all know this, we do hashtags Tom Sexy Legs. I was guarding the armory, because my training was how to design, and I designed and installed computer and telephone systems. But my boss back in the early 80s didn't think women should be there. Now, computers in the time I started with them took up whole rooms, right? So not like what you're talking about now, but I was, you know, one of the first women in this particular career field. And so because I shot expert with an M16 and a 38, he thought I needed to guard the armory. So again, like, I'm not good enough, right? Is anybody relating to this? Hopefully this will stir up some memories that you're going to recognize that somebody said something to you that is not true, nor do you want it to be true. And yet you've listened to it so long, it's become a filter and how you respond to people. So anytime I had ever hung out with girls, it was bad. So instead of being a cheerleader, I kept stats for the football team. When I joined the military, I went to a career where there would be no women. Now, this is really crazy. I know we've got all different faiths listening, but I believe that the enemy, Satan, tried to keep me away from women, because this is where I'm supposed to be, right? I was born to do what I'm doing right now. But I will tell you, the first 23 years of my life, everything in life tried to push me away from that. So I would ask you to just kind of think about, what is it that you kind of feel like a nudge, but like everybody's told you can't do it. That's what we're going to dig, because I bet there's some blessings in there. Well, I will tell you, I met Tom. I was guarding the armory, and he was out there playing volleyball. We were in a mobile unit, and I thought, oh my gosh, those are the best legs I've ever seen in my life. So I invited those legs over to dinner, and they stayed for breakfast. I made Jesus really sad. And of course, now we're 42 years later. So don't judge me, because you got your own issues, right? But so I was, you know, happily married as much as I knew how. My parents were happily married, and as much as I knew how, but the problem was my self-identity was I wasn't good enough, right? My husband's really good-looking guy, and I didn't see myself as pretty, right? I always felt like he should be with like a little blonde cheerleader, but he wasn't attracted to that. He liked brunettes, but I couldn't see that. So it hurt our marriage. Whenever our daughter was born, I didn't even really want to have kids. And then one day I decided, hey, this would be really cool. But then I was in this conflict of, hey, I know I'm supposed to make 6 or 7 figures. I know I'm supposed to do all of this, but now that I've had this child and I've held this child who spent 7 weeks in neonatal ICU unexpectedly, my life shifted, right? And then, so now I'm like, okay, well, all the things I thought I was supposed to be is not, right? So I'm kind of looking on here. Are y'all are y'all relating to some of this in your life where all of a sudden you wake up and you're living this life, right? That everybody from the outside is like, oh, this is great. You're married to the man of your dreams. You've got a healthy child now. You're moving up the career path. And yet, I could not get to that. That was not the story that I was telling myself about me. And it came back from all of those labels of me growing up, of me having bosses that didn't think I was good enough, right? For being around those mean girls that worked around all that. And then I was introduced to Mary Kay. And the night that I was introduced to Mary Kay was the first time in my life I had ever seen powerful alpha females complement and build each other up. And I thought, well, that's just about the craziest thing I've ever seen. And at that point, I recognized that what I thought about me and what I thought about other women was unhealthy, that there might be something wrong with my self-identity. Okay. And I didn't have the verbiage to do that, but I just knew that something wasn't right. How many of y'all know what I'm talking about, right? You're just like, there's something just off on my thinking. Like the things that I say about me, I would never say to my girlfriend. There are things that I think and say about me that I wouldn't even say out loud. And nor would I even receive it from somebody else. How many of y'all know what I'm talking about? Well, that means you got a little bit of a skewed self-identity. And the best way that I can describe this to you is through a thermostat. So like when you walk into a room, right, let's say it's at 72 degrees because you set the thermostat. Anytime the room gets a little bit colder, the heater comes on. If it gets too hot, the air comes on. And what it does is it controls the temperature in the room, okay? Well, your self-identity, right? I need y'all to, unless you're driving, I need you to look at me, okay? And if you're on YouTube, seriously, stop for just a second. The way that you see yourself sets your own thermometer, okay? Now, to jump back to my story, I did really well from the very beginning in Mary Kay. I just loved it because I'm a good student and all the things that went along. And again, I just want to just kind of tell you that this is what happened. It happened in the military. I did really well in the military. I'm a really good starter. But to finish well, is not something that I was known for. And so what happened in my business was I went along and I did really, really well. And I see this in women all the time. They'll do really, really well, right? They have like this unbelievable success. And it could be in church. It could be a nonprofit. Maybe you're a nonprofit. Maybe it is in ministry. Maybe it's in your home. Maybe it's in your job, right? We've got women from all aspects. And what happens is all of a sudden you're doing great. And then something happens where your internal thermostat kicks on. So let's say on a scale of 1 to 10, you're operating at an 8, right? Like you're coming in, you're rocking it, right? Y'all know what I'm talking about. Like there's been something in your life. It could be crocheting, it could be whatever it is, but like you rocked it, right? Type in what it is. What was that time like you just rocked it? Could be a mom, could be a wife, could be at church, could be your faith, could be your job, could be whatever. But there was a time like you just rocked it. But then what happens is that all of a sudden your identity recognizes I'm operating at an 8. Ah, I can't do that. I'm not an 8. I'm a 4. I'm a 4, right? And I'm a 4 because, and then you can go back and then in your self-identity, well, do you remember when this person said you weren't good at that? You couldn't do that. You couldn't do that. And you've gathered up all of this evidence that you're a 4 girl, when in reality, you're a 10. right? Really, you're a 10, but you don't know that right now where you're sitting there. And so what happens is you recognize, oh my gosh, that isn't me, right? And then you start to self-destruct. I see it right now with people that I'm working with, whether it's at church or whether I'm mentoring other business women or whether it's in my business, whatever that is, I'm seeing it right now. Women who have done fantastic things. And every time they go to break out, boom, there is something else. There's another distraction. They get sick. Something goes on. They have chaos. That's what mine was, always chaos. I always created chaos, fights and all kinds of stuff like that. Not like fist fights, but word fights. And I'd be in all this drama, right? Because what happens is you got to move yourself from an 8 to a 4. And so one of the things that we're going to be talking about in the book is how to really stop the chaos in your life. Who's excited about that? I've reached out to some people to speak into that particular topic. Well, so here's what I want y'all to realize is I want you to realize that the reason that your self-identity is set up like that is because of the thoughts. Now, when you think something, right, over and over, it's going to be either a pitiful thought or a powerful thought, right? In the Bible, it says, take captive every thought, right? And then, of course, you would hold it up to God's word. And is it true? Now, just because you have a thought, it's not a sin. Just because you have a thought doesn't mean that it owns you. It's when you capture it and you hold on to it. And then you start building your life around it. And then you start gathering evidence so that it becomes true. That's whenever a thought becomes either very dangerous or very powerful. So that's what we want to talk about is erasing and replacing these labels. And so in the book, what I talk about a lot is what's called excellence in action. So there's like homework. And for this week, this is what we're going to do is I want you, and if you're brave enough, you can type them in here if you want to. I would love to see what some of your pitiful labels are so that that'll also help me with speakers and all of that. But I also, whenever you type this in, because I want you, even though we haven't really talked about it, I want you to do the opposite of that. Okay. For example, like maybe your pitiful label is, I'm just shy. Right? I'm just an introvert, right? Like you can take something that is a character quality or something in your personality and you've made it pitiful, right? Some of the top people, some of the greatest influencers have had the label they're shy or they're an introvert. But in reality, what they really are is great listeners. Well, talkers like me need listeners because you listen. And you don't listen to talk, you listen to learn, you are incredibly powerful, right? People say this, y'all that know me know I cannot stand the word overwhelmed. I'm so overwhelmed. I'm overwhelmed. You're overwhelmed because you can't say no. You're overwhelmed because you are running from your calling. You're overwhelmed, right? Because you keep telling yourself you're overwhelmed. Overwhelmed is a victim. In other words, you don't control your schedule. You don't control what's going on. And so if that's maybe a pitiful label that you say all the time, I'm just overwhelmed. Well, then the other side of that, erasing and replacing that is, wow, I am blessed to be in demand. Right? There are people all over the world that wish somebody would call on them. There are people all over the world that wish that they were married, right? I want you to realize that if you're married right now or in a relationship, there was a time you prayed for that. Right? If you had the privilege of being a mom, there was a time you prayed for that, and women would give anything to be where you're at. If you have a business or have a job, you prayed for this at some point, right? Most of the things that we complain about today are the things we prayed the hardest for in our past. And remember that. And that'll allow you to work in a little bit more of gratitude, right? So that you're not just dogging this all the time, because there are people around that would love to have that opportunity. We're going to talk a lot about if only and what if, right? We're going to talk about how those are negative. So again, overwhelmed, right? Nope, I'm blessed to be in demand. Okay. Maybe it is, I don't know. Let's look on here. Let's see. Do y'all have some on here? Let me look and see on here. What are some of your things that you've got? Y'all got some things on here. Can y'all do that? throw me some things on here. What are some of your pitiful labels? I'm going to look on here, right? So yeah, but don't say overwhelmed. I mean, you can now that I've done that. But what is something else? What would be something else that you could kind of do that? Or I can't do that because I am Black or white or young or old or skinny or fat or broad, or I'm Asian, or I'm Spanish, or I'm Caucasian, or I don't even know what I am. So there you go. So we got branches in our tree. I don't even know what I am. So there we go. So I want you too old. Linda Garcia, thank you. I'm not enough. Thank you, Amber. Okay, great. Lazy, Gail, that is one. I mean, people have said that to us in the past. Not good enough. Oh my gosh, y'all are so good. All right, so we're going to learn how to erase and replace these, right? You're not too old. What, right? You have wisdom, right? Go back and do research. I mean, think about this. Moses led 1 million people out at 80 years old, right? Mary Kay started this company at 45 years old and was really hitting her stride at 50. Now, I will tell you that is one. I just wanted to share with y'all what mine are. Thank you all, right? Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Well, I'm not even going to read some of these. I'm going to let y'all kind of go through this. Man. Wow. Wow, some of those, y'all, that makes me cry. We're definitely going to erase and replace. Okay, so we're going to work through those. So we're going to either me or my daughter will get those pulled down, and throughout our time together, we're going to erase and replace those. Gosh, thank you for being so honest on that. There's some mean people out there, isn't there? Say some mean things to us. Well, you know what we're going to do with people that do that, right? What are we going to do? We're going to wipe their name off of our board if we have a little board, or we're going to wipe their name out of our phone or off of Facebook, right? And we're going to put our hand in our heart. And what are we going to say? We're going to say, bless her little heart. She's doing the best she can. And then we're going to squirt ourselves with glitter, right? Because you can't be mad or sad if you're covered in glitter. So after reading some of that, I might need a couple of those. Okay, so there's that. So here's my 3 that I had to erase and replace in order to be as effective as I can. Because remember, we talked about the thermostat. I bet some of y'all thought I couldn't get back. Even at 60, I can still get back there, right? So remember, kind of going back, whenever I started on this bunny trail, we talked about you're operating at an 8. Your self-identity said, oh my gosh, you're not an 8, you're a 4. Remember what all these people said to you. So no matter how hard you work, right? No matter how hard you work and no matter how many hours you put in, you are not getting out of that box. And that's that box of all of those pitiful labels that people have put on you and you put on you, right? Making you operate at a 3 or a 4, and you're not a 3 or 4 girl, right? You're an 8 to 10 girl is who you are. So what we've got to do is we have to change those out so that when they come to mind, you can replace them. And then you can start inching up. You start seeing yourself differently. We're going to start looking at situations differently. Okay, so mine was, I'm not that kind of girl, right? I'm not that kind. I don't, for me, I don't like women. I wash my face with shampoo. I wear no makeup, right? I've never sold anything. I don't want to sell anything. I don't want to be a part of any of that. And so what I had to do whenever I got started in my business, and again, I know there's lots of different businesses out there, I really had to have a come to Jesus with myself and just say, okay, I am called to this, even though I don't understand. How can I be a blessing, right? Type that in. How can I be a blessing? Everybody type that in. How can I be a blessing? So whenever I looked at getting started, what I envisioned was not people snubbing their nose at me or, thinking I was bothering them. What I did was I thought, you know why I don't wear makeup? You know why I don't use skincare? Because nobody teaches me. And there's no way I'm going to the mall. There's no way I'm going to the store to take on those women, right? So my thought was, whenever I started, was, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do this differently. And I'm going to create the safest place on the planet where a woman feels valued and seen and important. And I'm going to show her some product. And if she wants some, great. And if not, then you know what? She's invested 45 minutes, 30 minutes of her life into me. And in every opportunity that I can, I am going to speak truth into this woman. And I'm going to remind her of how amazing she is. So when she walks away, my definition of success is her shoulders are back and she feels better about herself. That I would be an instrument. So whenever I started out that I'm not good enough, I'm not that kind of person, what I had to do is realize the kind of person that I wanted to be, right? And so that's why I've always done well in this, right? Because I am I want people to feel more powerful. I don't want it to be about me. How many of y'all are around people that have to be affirmed all the time? Don't they just wear your honey out? Like, oh my gosh, right? Oh my gosh, just exhausting, right? They just need it all the time. Well, we'll do that, but we want to be the people that are not focused on ourselves. The other one was when I first started, I was too young. There's no way people would learn from me. Mostly because my favorite word back in the day was the F word, and it was not fun or faith, right? So I was a little rough around the edges, and I was really young. But I found that people didn't care what I used, they cared what they needed. Again, that whole be a blessing, right? Not try to sell, not try to book them, be a blessing to them. The same thing in ministry, the same thing in nonprofit, the same thing in my family, the same thing, right? If you're like, how can I, this conversation like today, y'all, I've been up since 4:30 this morning. I've been on my knees, I've been circling this. I mean, for weeks, because this time I want you to feel better about yourself. It's not about me. It's not about the numbers of likes. I don't care if there's one person on this, then you're the person that needs to hear the permission to be a blessing. The other one is too old. And I'm going to tell you a couple of stories. And then with this, that I think is, that really are painful for me. One is, again, remember I talked about whenever I first started, every time I would get going at like an 8 or a 10, I would create chaos in my life. It would be some sort of argument or a misunderstanding, or I could just create chaos, because then it would eat up all my time and my energy. So I couldn't do the things that I needed to do in my business. It would carry over into my marriage. I'd be really witchy. It carried over in how I was a mom, right? Like but what it did was it just filled my time. So I didn't have to do the things I was maybe afraid of, right? So again, going from 8 to 4, 8 to 4, 8 to 4, 8 to 4. And so I started to see this pattern. And then there was an opportunity for us to go to Alaska. And my husband loves Alaska. And he's like, Diana, I don't know what you got to get fixed in your head, right? But you need to get this fixed. And so that whole year, and I'll tell you more about this later, I had to get some things fixed in my head in order to get to an 8, a 9, a 10, and to stay there. And but the year that I did it was the first time that Mary Kay Ash was not on the trip. So although I had 10 years to travel with Mary Kay, I never got to do that. And not because my people weren't amazing, and not because I wasn't capable, but because of my self-identity. And so my life is forever changed, not good, that I did not get to travel and learn from Mary Kay. I wonder what you're missing out. Who are you missing out being with because of your self-identity, right? Students, I've been called to work with students for decades. And I kept saying, I'm too old. I'm too old. I'm too old. I'm too old. They don't need old people. They need young people, right? They need young people. And about 3 years ago, I said, that's it. They need a grandma too. And I will tell you, and for y'all that know me, you all know I love Wednesday night at Crosspoint students as much as I love air, right? Our pastor, Trevor, I'm telling you, there's an anointing on that young man, and it is an honor and a privilege to speak into these young girls. I love when they text and they're like, I was on the trip to London with the girls, and one of the gals, young gals, Lily's like, I have this verse. Tell me what you think about this. Like, I get to work with the most extraordinary young women ever. And I think about, oh my gosh, how wonderful this is. But I was called for 20 years to serve. But because of that label, I missed out on what God wanted to teach me through students and the way that I saw the younger generation. And then I missed out on being that river of what God wanted to speak into these students. So where do you need to be brave on that? And then the other one is, and some of y'all will be like, well, I might be able to understand, I'm going to wrap up with this, is that I'm a little much. I know I'm a little much. I got pom-poms, I got glitter. I am loud in charge. Whenever I walk into a room, you feel it. You feel my energy. I am, some of my girlfriends are like, I'm the puppy dog of the Nationals. Like, I want everybody to feel welcome. I'm going to hug everybody. I don't care if you don't want a hug, you're getting a hug. I don't care if you speak English, Spanish. I don't care what you do. I go and sit with the Spanish people. They don't speak English. I don't speak Spanish. We figure it out, right? Like I am a lot, right? I have learned to quiet it down with some of the people that are better listeners. But as a whole, my concern was I'm too much. And I just remember my mentor Karen Pirro saying, Diana, not everybody's going to be your people, right? You're going to come in, right? And as long as you are authentically who you are, don't try to be like anybody else. You be you. And the people that are supposed to hear you will hear you. And those that you're not their people, make sure that you create places for them to be able to hear. So for y'all that maybe listen and maybe already tuned out, I'm going to have a lot of people that are on the other side of this, right? But I want to challenge you. You're not too much and you're not too little for the calling that you have on your life. And so I just wanted to just share that with you today, that and then just kind of end this with kind of a verse. And I not kind of a verse, it is a verse, but there's also Napoleon Hill taught us that whatever your mind can conceive and believe, you can achieve, regardless of how many times you failed in the past. Y'all are on this because you want to step out of the box. You know that you're called for more. You know that you're supposed to do more, and you need a sisterhood. You need a community, and we're going to celebrate your wins here. I'm going to tell you. And then, of course, Philippians 4:8, it says, finally, beloved, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is just, whatever is pure, whatever is pleasing, whatever is commendable, if there is any excellence, if there is anything worthy of praise, think about these things. So our thoughts, in order to go from pitiful to powerful, this is the filter, right? Is it true? Is it honorable? Is it just? Is it pleasing? Is it commendable? Is it excellent? Is it worthy of praise? And if not, y'all, we are going to erase and replace that. And then we're going to go global with this, right? Because we're going to be able to, everybody in our life, we're going to help them to be able to erase and replace. So I hope that you enjoyed today. I hope you're excited about all the things that are going on. Thank you all for sharing. On here, share this with a friend. One of the things that I am going to do, I think we're at like, when the last time we shut this down, we were like 5,700 people in this group. But every time we hit another 1,000 in there, I'm going to do $100 donation to the Mary Kay Charitable Fund. So as you are sharing, so the more of us that get out of the box, we're going to support the Mary Kay Charitable Fund. I just want you to know that this week, I want you to remember that we are too blessed to be stressed, too anointed to be disappointed, too equipped to be whipped. Have a miracle-filled week. I am so honored that you took the time. See you next week. Bye-bye.